Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful night. The weather's perfect, so I'm glad that we're all in here, staying warm and dry. Yeah, and like I said, thank you for joining us for a wonderful evening of storytelling and conversation with two amazing authors. As I said, we're highlighting tonight two very different but very brilliant books. A Tall Cup of Joe by Matti McLean, and Andalusia Dogs by Christian Baines. Very briefly, I am Hunter I'm your host this evening, walking us through this lovely literary event. One book gives us magical mishaps, coffee, and queer romance, and a very, very deeply unhelpful seagull. The other drops us into Madrid's artistic underground during a time of political tension and upheaval, filled with desire and tension, and a lot of theater kid energy. Both books are part of the Haunted Hearts series, Season of the Witch. It's a collaborative series that brings together a group of queer authors exploring magic, desire, identity, and the supernatural in their own unique ways. Each story stands on their own. It's an anthology in that regard. They're exploring queer characters, navigating extraordinary circumstances, whether that be spell work, spirits, political upheaval, as in Andalusia Dogs, or the magic that comes from connection. It's a series that's playful, strange, emotional, and proudly diverse, that celebrates queer storytelling through fantasy, romance, and the unexpected. Please welcome our authors for the evening. Matti McLean, writer, artist, and creator of one of literature's most unhinged bird companions.
Yay.
I mean, it's very true.
I mean, we should applaud if you want to. I don't mind.
We should. Please, applause. We're going to begin. So we are going to begin tonight with readings from A Tall Cup of Joe. So I will, with nothing else from me, I will pass it on to Matti.
Excellent.
Welcome.
So for context, Season of the Witch, I really want to focus on the idea of the familiar. And like witches always have familiars, like they have cats, they have, black cats, other animals come to mind. So I decided to give my hapless hero a foul-mouthed seagull who is maybe a little deranged, but I'll let you decide. So this is where this kicks off, is right at this point. Jacob knew he was asleep, but he wasn't very good at figuring. I am in the wrong part of the book. Nailing it. That night they won trivia. The prize was another drink, which meant at this point Jacob was more beer than man. He burped, took 2 antacids for his heartburn, and staggered his way home like an intoxicated llama. Laying in bed, Jacob stared at the ceiling. The ceiling fan cycled again and again, and his mind would not shut off. The day swam through his mind like a whale. What was he doing wrong? What was the deal? Fuck. The spinning was making him dizzy. Or perhaps that was the beer. But either way, he was beginning to hate the fan. As he stared at the ceiling, he noticed a small red light flickering on the fan. He narrowed his eyes to try to figure out what was there. It was so odd and familiar. And then he looked over at the nightstand to see a large seagull sitting atop it. Yo, the seagull squawked in perfect English. Jacob screamed. He rocketed off his bed as the seagull looked at him like he was a leftover pizza. For a moment, the bird felt more like he was peering directly into Jacob's soul. Or lack of one. What? The seagull asked. Shoo! Ah! He whipped his arms in an attempt to scare the bird without having to touch it. It did not work. He ran to the other side of the room in case the strange seagull tried to attack him. It didn't, but just in case, he was prepared. He opened the window in an attempt to get it outside, but it didn't seem to give any mind. The bird wasn't budging. Get out, bird! Jacob exclaimed, raising his arms over his head as if he was scaring off a bear. Shoo! The bird did not shoo. After what felt like hours and Jacob had calmed himself down a bit, the bird finally flapped towards him, settled on the bed, and looked Jacob in his eyes. Are you done? The bird asked. It sounded snarky. I guess. Good. Please be done. This is tiring, the bird responded. You're a bird? Jacob finally whispered. Real fucking observant, ain't ya? The bird snarked. Name's Teddy. Who the fuck are you? Jacob? He eventually responded. You're not sure? Teddy queried. You're a bird? Jacob pondered back. I'm going to need to use small words with you, aren't I? Teddy responded. How are you talking? With my mouth, dipshit. You're going to keep asking stupid questions? I'm trying not to. What are you? Jacob asked. I'm Teddy. I'm your familiar. What? Look, you wanted someone to come and unlock your innate magical abilities, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to make all your problems better? I mean, at least more interesting. What do you mean you came to unlock my magical abilities? Jacob asked. Let me clear up a few things. First, are you or are you not a witch? Teddy responded. I'm not a witch? Jacob asked, once again unsure what this line of questioning was actually for. Wrong, top nuts. If I'm here, you is definitely witch. A male witch, which is fine, I don't judge, but a defo witch. The seagull was eyeing him. I think I would know what I am, Jacob responded. No, of course not. What a stupid notion. Teddy laughed with a caw. I know what I am, Jacob fumed. No, you don't. That's why I'm here, Teddy responded, puffing out his chest like a proud peacock. Is this real? Jacob asked. Probably. Who knows? Maybe you're just a big fucking idiot dreaming again. That does seem more realistic, to be honest, Jacob responded. Look, numbnuts, I'm here, so you better get used to having a big, exciting, magical whatever in your life, capiche? Teddy yawned in ways that confused Jacob. He never realized that seagulls could have so many teeth. With a happy bounce, Teddy hopped over to the dresser and laid down upon one of his shirts. Just, please don't make a mess, Jacob responded. I won't, Teddy began. Make any promises. This next scene happens well into the book. In this book, Jacob, upon discovering his innate brewcaster abilities as a barista, he brews magic into the drinks that he makes. He accidentally casts a love spell upon the love of his life. Jacob, a pastor who may or may not be a witch hunter. This happens well into the book, but I just want to go over the scene really quickly. Just as he was alone, the door dinged and in walked Joe. He looked as fresh and dapper as ever. Hello, handsome, Joe said. Hello there. Also handsome, Jacob flushed. Puke, Teddy responded. What brings you here? It's 1 o'clock. I'm here for some coffee, Joe smiled. Where are the co-workers? In the back, Jacob responded. And the customers? Away. Jacob couldn't figure out what Joe was getting at. I see. Joe smiled and flicked the lock of the door. And the security cameras? What security cameras? Good answer, Joe smiled. He moved to the door and flipped the sign from open to close and smiled at Joe. We're not actually closed, Jacob responded, still not picking up on what Joe was putting down. Joe moved to him like a tiger, strong, powerful, and confident. Jacob moved like a drunk turtle, slow, awkward, and most likely to end up on his back. Forcefully, Joe pulled Jacob into a kiss behind the register. Jacob awkwardly pushed off a couple of the lids and items on the counter, but not a ton, because he didn't want to have to clean it up later. Garrett had just put a sign out for no musical numbers. He did not want to have to give him a reason to put up another. With expert practice that Jacob didn't expect, knowing Joe's history, or at least the parts of it he knew, his pants were pulled down to his knees. Jacob fumbled awkwardly with Joe's buttons, but as he did, Joe expertly worked his arm around his rear and began to massage it through the fabric of his underwear. How do you like it? Joe whispered. To go? How about strong and full of flavor? Joe responded. With his strong hands, Joe flipped Jacob over so his ass was positioned on the counter. He quickly graped Jacob's underwear, and with a quick yank, it left him exposed. You know, I could probably go for that, Jacob responded. Talk up of Joe. My streamers are finding out way too much about what I write.
Yeah, and I guess I should give a welcome to people who are joining us online. Not the usual Toronto stream. Okay, I'm really wondering. I have to say, I'm really wondering about seagulls and teeth now. How many teeth do they have?
They have like serrated beaks, so it looks like teeth, but they're not actually teeth. I know too much about seagulls now. That's the story.
So is that part of the novel writing process, was doing research into seagulls and their teeth?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic.
Maybe I just know too much about seagulls.
Okay, well, thank you for the reading. We're going to move on to our next reading. So now we're shifting entirely. We're moving to Madrid, to a very different world. It's hot, it's complicated, it's tender, and honestly, it is so much theater kid energy. It's so good. I loved both of these books immensely, and Seagulls left me questioning. Theater Kid made me feel, yeah, okay, I get that. So I'm going to bring up Christian to read from his book, Enter the Dogs.
Woo!
Thank you, Hunter. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. And if you came out to the launch of Geistfleisch last year, welcome back to the world of Haunted Hearts. This year, the series has been a little bit different. Our focus has been Season of the Witch. So whereas last year we were bringing you gay ghost stories, this year is all about gay male witches, and every book in the Haunted Hearts Season of the Witch series is a discrete story about a different gay male witch and a different kind of gay male witch. So, as Hunter said, Andalusia Dogs is set in Madrid in 1980. It has been only 5 years since the fall of the Franco dictatorship, and we're plunging into a story about theater kids, and particularly a theater kid who has attracted the attention of a very charming young man who may or may not be a witch. So, imagine city coming out of a dictatorship, mixed with theater kids, mixed with newly liberated queers. It's kind of the environment in which a chaos witch can thrive. So the scene I'm going to read for you is at about the midpoint of the book, whereas Alex, who is the theater director, has just had Jaeger, who is the possible witch who's attracted his interest, has stopped by one of their rehearsals. And Alex's ex-boyfriend, who is now his stage manager, has some reservations about Jaeger. Whether this is just jealousy or genuine concern remains to be seen. So we're going to pick up on a scene where Vicente is walking Alex home and has some questions. Come on then, I promised you a walk home. Alex smiled, suddenly happier for the invitation. They took their time, weaving through the streets of Cheka and watching the bands of 2, 3 or more homos and other misfits darting from door to door in search of their night out. A surly Moroccan-looking bouncer admitted a pair of muscular, leather-clad kinksters to a darkened doorway, while neon-coloured t-shirts with cut-off waists made a gaggle of freshly minted twinks impossible to miss. In Cordoba, or even Seville, they probably would have been detained, sent home, or worse. No matter how familiar it began to seem, watching Madrid's most colourful characters just going about their lives like the party would never end always made Alex smile. I really hope you know what you're doing, Vicente said as they turned into his street. The words weren't accusatory or even cynical. They'd just been concerned. I've been telling myself that since we started this. It'll be great, trust me. I just mean this guy. Come on, this, really? Don't come on this, me. I do trust you. Vicente shook his head, turning toward a mixed group who'd burst into song at the end of the street. Okay, fine, I'll drop it. You're a big boy, and if you think he can help the play... Alex put a hand on Vicente's shoulder. Thank you. As they neared Alex's block, flashing red lights reflected off the walls overlooking a small side street, the same one where Alex had been robbed the night before. Behind an ambulance and 2 police bikes, they saw a small white car, crumpled at the front where it had hit a wall at considerable speed. Between the pulsing lights, Alex made out the thick shape of a man pinned against the wall by what remained of the hood. Jesus, Vicente said. Hey, Alex, what are you doing? Alex felt Vicente tugging him as he tried to get closer. I just want to see. You're macabre, you know that? Macabre? It wasn't every day he saw fatal car accidents in the back streets of Chaco. He could just now make out the face, the bright colours of a rooster tattooed on the forearm. Holy shit. You there, get back! One of the officers barked at them. Alex tried to catch his breath as he allowed Vicente to drag him away. Man, why did you do that? What is wrong with you right now? That was him. What? Who? Paco. I mean, he said his name. That was the guy who robbed me last night. Vicente stared at him, lost for words. I don't understand. The dead guy. Yes, the dead guy. Look. What do you mean, look? How would I recognize him? Stop. You're right. Forget it. But you're sure? Yes, I'm sure. Okay, let's just go home. Nothing else was said until they reached the front door of Alex's building, where Diego sat on the step, waiting with a full bottle of red wine. Hi, Alex said quietly. Vicente said nothing. Hey. Diego's smile quickly darkened. Are you guys okay? You look like you've seen... There was an accident, said Vicente. It looked nasty. An accident? Yeah, it was bad. Questions turned in Alex's head like a wheel until he at last grabbed the most obvious one. How did you find my house? Oh, I'm sorry, of course, this looks so rude of me. When I took you back to my place, I checked your wallet for your identity card. I swear, it was just in case I had to call a doctor. Okay. Fine, I guess. I'm sorry, I thought this would be a nice surprise. It's a surprise, Vicente said. Look, if you don't mind, Diego, is it? We're kind of shaken up. Maybe another time? Of course. Here. Diego handed Vicente the bottle of wine. A peace offering. I'll leave you be. Wait, said Alex quickly. It's okay. Seriously? Vicente asked, his mask of civility slipping for just a second. I am fine. You go up, I'll be there in a bit. Alex handed him the keys. Vicente paused, giving Diego one last skeptical look before making good on his promise to trust that Alex knew what he was doing. He really doesn't like me, does he? He doesn't know you, insisted Alex. Honestly, Diego, neither do I. Right. Well, perhaps we should do something about that. The two of them watched an ambulance drive by the end of the street, presumably carrying the body of the deceased Paco. Alex didn't see any reason to share the victim's identity with Diego. The air seemed fresher somehow for the vehicle's departure. Alex felt a shiver go through him. I think Vicente would have kittens if I invited you up. You know, I really didn't bring the wine for him. Perhaps he can spare you for 10 minutes? Maybe 15? Or 20? Alex teased. You're the one with somewhere to be. Or someone to be with. What, Vicente? No, that ended a while ago. But he's still loyal to you. Diego took Alex by the hand. Come on. I promise not to keep you out too late.
Thank you so much, Christian. That was beautiful. It seemed as such a turning point in the novel with Vicente and Alex in this quite intimate moment on the walk home, and suddenly Diego there on her steps. Certainly tension building. I say that's kind of something you do very well throughout this book. We're going to move now into a Q&A. Thank you. Look at that. You train authors to move chairs. They're more than just pretty faces and amazing writers. So, yeah, get close.
Yay. Cuddles.
I'm not used to performing on camera. Liar.
Are the stage lights a little bit too much for you?
Richer if it was.
Yeah. Okay, so we, having read the books and we discussed some of these questions kind of in advance to kind of go through this, so we're going to go through a few prepared questions. Also, that being said, if you have some questions, we are going to get to a bit of an open Q&A, so hold on to those questions and we will try to get to as many of them. I think we have a good amount of time. So, Matti, Christian, let's begin with the moment these stories kind of sparked for you. What was the idea, the image, what was the feeling that made you go, oh, this is the book?
So many years ago, there was a movie that was made called Simply Irresistible. And it is awful, and I love it. But essentially, Sarah Michelle Gellar's becomes a witch by cooking things into food, and then she becomes a great chef. And it's terrible, but it's also amazing. And I was just like, what if I wrote something that was like this, but good? And so I wanted to do that. And I came up with this idea based off of the pun, A Tall Cup of Joe, because I am a deeply serious person who only writes serious works. And I thought, how far can I take this joke? And it turns out all the way. So, no double entendres. But yeah, that's what I did. And I ended up with Tall Cup of Joe, and when Christian was just like, they were doing Haunted Hearts again, I was just like, I want in. And I had this idea, I'd been working on it for years, just trying to be like, I have this idea, how does it go? And it had been lying in wait for me to write this. And now I did. End of story.
I think Andalusia Dogs came almost organically out of Geistfleisch. I'm like some of you know, I'm quite a bit of a Europhile, and particularly an Iberiophile. So Spain's history absolutely fascinates me, particularly like its 20th century. How much that country has changed in 50 years is just absolutely incredible. But my last book for Haunted Hearts, my Haunted Hearts books actually serve as standalone add-ons to my Arcadia Trust series, if any of you have read any of those books. You don't need to have read the Arcadia Trust books to get into them, but there's little Easter eggs in there. So I wanted Andalusia Dogs to be the same. And with Geistfleisch, I wrote about Weimar Berlin, which is an extremely queer, positive society sliding into fascism. And as certain aspects of our own global political situation seem to be sliding perilously close to that direction, I thought, no, I'm not going to, I want the complete opposite this time. So I wrote about a society coming out of fascism. And by far the most colourful example of that was Spain from 1975 up until around 1990. It was a period called the Movida, and central to that was an era called the Movida Madrileña, which was an incredibly queer positive time in Madrid. It was also an incredibly dangerous, chaotic time to be in the city, but there's a lot of art, a lot of queer art, and a lot of queer identity. It's pretty much what transfer. When it's talked about today, they use the phrase, God bless this chaos, which was the perfect tone I wanted for the book. And the fact that that's kind of shaped the identity of what queer Spain is now was very appealing to me. So that was it seemed like a natural setting to use for the next Haunted Hearts book.
Thank you. Both books feel very alive in very different ways. One, of course, through magic and humor, the other through politics and tension, and of course the messiness of the theater. You can figure out which was which. Both have chaos, I guess. How did you each find the tone for your books?
Some of you know me as a person.
To be clear, perfect. No notes.
I've never known you as a minimalist. Yeah, no, I'd say in some ways Andalusia Dogs is the closest I've done to a romance book. It's not a conventional romance by any means. But yeah, tonally, it's a little bit lighter than what people might be used to with some of my books. So, but I'm always trying to do something a little bit different. And I think, as Hunter mentioned, I wanted sort of a love letter to not just sort of my own interest in like Spain's history, but also theatre kids and just how insecure and chaotic and messy and wonderful we can be, and what comes out of that. So that kind of determined the tone for the book.
So moving on to the characters of these books, was there a character to both of you in this that maybe kind of surprised you, that maybe took over a scene or even the whole book, maybe something dominated the story for you?
Teddy. Yeah. Sometimes I have archetypes, like in a lot of my books I'll have a character named Jacob, and they always kind of share that neurotic space in my head. And sometimes what happens in my books is I'll combine these characters in different ways that I wasn't expecting. And so pairing a Jacob with a Teddy, who also has appeared in other books that I've never published, but we'll see. But having those two characters together was just such a funny fit that I was just like, I have to do this. Because Jacob is just so neurotic, and Teddy is just me in chaos form. So, me. Yeah, it was just fun to play in those characters and mash them together in a crazy way.
You know, Diego is the Spanish form of Jacob, right? Completely unintentional, I know. There's no consultation and crosstalk between these books as we're writing them. We normally start collaborating maybe eight weeks out in a complete panic. But yeah, in terms of character, there was no character that sort of took over the book for me unexpectedly. I knew who this book was about, but spoiler alert, it's not about exactly who you might think, and I'm just going to leave it there.
So when it comes to looking at the relationships that these books explore, the connections that are created, Matti, in this we have Jacob and Joe. We'll ignore Teddy at the moment as much as he's very hard to ignore. They have this awkward, sweet chemistry that grows throughout the story. Christian, you have, of course, Alex and Diego that have this slow, electric tension that turns into something kind of different and maybe even dangerous. How did you craft these relationships? What was kind of the inspiration there?
So about Teddy. No. The relationship between Jacob and Joe is probably my sweetest relationship I've ever done, because the whole idea of it is if you accidentally cast magic on someone and they fall in love with you, and they're being they think they're being genuine, but there's always that doubt of, is this magic or is this me, or am I insecure, or is it this? And just to kind of play with the balance of, does someone, if you cast a spell on someone, does someone actually love you, or is it just projection? And so how do you react to something genuine when you yourself can't know if it's genuine or terrible, or if you did that, or if it's there? So that's the tension. That's the book. That's the hook. I should have left it that. There we go. So about Teddy.
Putting Teddy aside. There's a quote that's been attributed to multiple people. I have no idea who the original author is, but it's basically the idea that there's nothing more terrifying for an artist than to be ignored, except to be successful. And that's kind of the dynamic at play in Andalusia Dogs. Diego comes into Alex's life. He tantalizingly offers in this almost Faustian way, though he's far more charming and subtle than that. a way for Alex to kind of make his mark and find success. But it's just whether Alex is willing to embrace the consequences of that and what collateral damage they might pick up on the way. So there's a natural tension in that. There's an almost supernatural pull that Diego seems to have. Certainly on Alex, it doesn't seem to affect others in the same way. Although there is one other character in the book who seems very much enamored of Diego, and again, I'm going to leave that there.
So, just a question for you, Matti, on the character of Jacob. His power, his magic, doesn't come across as this like solving your problems. If anything, it's kind of embarrassing and slow, and there's not this confidence in it. Was you sorry? How intentional was it to have that magic kind of function almost as perhaps maybe anxiety or imposter syndrome, which I think you kind of touched on already, but.
Well, the whole idea of brewcasting came about being almost like a monkey's paw situation, where it's not really be careful what you wish for, but like when you cast something, like anytime you make an action, you'll get an opposite reaction, right? So even if you're doing that with magic, like what would theoretically happen if those rules still existed? So in terms of this magic, if anything happens, like as someone who was a barista for many years, there's this whole idea of just like, if I could poison people, would I? And the answer wasn't always no. I wish I had a better answer that was less truthful, but there it is.
To note, he's not a barista anymore. Though he does make me coffee on occasion, so...
Don't piss me off.
Yeah, I mean, you're great. Okay, on that, moving to Christian. So, in this book, the Madrid, the city that you're based in, is not just a backdrop. It's very intentional. It's a pressure cooker. It's shaped by a post-Franco world with protests, police violence, and the tensions that erupt from that. Alex's personal relationships blur into that upheaval, that social unrest. How did you go about balancing that intimate emotional story with the political atmosphere? And what drew you to tying Alex's desire and danger so closely to the city's unrest?
I think if you're trying to balance like personal with the bigger picture of your setting, I try and always pull things back toward the personal, because it's far easier for your reader to connect with something there. Like, yeah, okay, what was going on politically at this time in Madrid was absolutely fascinating. You had every different faction in Spain wanting to explore what this freedom meant for them. You had various parts of the country threatening to break off. You had aspects within those parts not wanting to break off. No one had any idea really what this democracy was going to look like. All that was fascinating. And then you bring that into just the artistic scene, which was exploding with this newfound freedom of sex and drugs and creativity. Again, just exploring what the limits of that were. But then bring it in tighter again to Alex. Alex is just a young man with an extremely provincial upbringing who suddenly has access to all of this and feels completely overwhelmed and intimidated by it. That's part of what makes Diego so attractive to him. Diego is his bridge that is willing to come to him on his terms with obviously this wealth of knowledge and possibly power, but he makes him feel safe in this world in a way and gives him sort of confidence in terms of, yeah, actually I do belong here, I can create something out of this. And it may not be perfect, but that's fine because I'm surrounded by imperfection, and that's what's sort of defining the era. And it's kind of I don't know, I find it a doubly exciting era. It wasn't just exciting for Spain, it was exciting worldwide because you had this kind of, you had all this kind of post-dictatorship energy coming out of Spain, and it was colliding with like the rise of the new wave in the UK, and all of those influences were coming in. So yeah, it really created a time and place that was unlike any other. Perhaps that's a good thing that it was unlike any other. But yeah, for these characters personally, it really just plunges into what those personal insecurities and fears are, and where Alex finds relief for those.
So I'm going to open it up to the room if there are people here who would like to ask any questions. I've also put in the chat for people who are online. I do have the chat open, so if you have a question.
There is a question in the chat. Basically, where can you get the book?
Exactly. We're definitely going to be plugging that a couple times, I think. Yeah, really quickly, actually, since that is the first question in the chat, where can people get a copy of these books?
And for people in the chat.
And for people in chat, Amazon has them. Our evil Amazon overlords. I mean, we love them. They're great. We love them. Anywhere else?
Yeah, at the moment the ebooks are exclusive to Kindle. At the moment, meaning they are available on Kindle Unlimited, but the paperbacks are available wide, so you can get the paperbacks through Indigo Chapters or any independent bookstore. So you're not necessarily beholden to the corporate overlords there, but yeah, for the moment, the ebook is Amazon.
Okay, so hands up, questions. Don't be shy, please. Fantastic.
You've been mentioning theater kids. Were you a theater kid?
I would have been a theatre kid if I was raised in a town that had any concept of what theatre was. I literally went to a high school that did not have a drama class. So yeah, I was.
You were the drama class.
I aspired to be. Aspired to be. Yeah, I mean, theatre kid, queer. Honorary queer for our heterosexual theatre kids. It's a fine line. So yeah, absolutely was.
Where is space?
Christian, did you do specific research into the restoration of democracy to Spain, or is this just something that from your prior reading you already knew a lot about and wanted to write a book about?
I'm just going to repeat the question for the people on camera. So, question for the people on the stream is, did Christian do some specific research into the restoration of democracy in a post-Franco Spain? And I'm just going to paraphrase that and pass it on.
Definitely did some extra reading as before I tried to get into trying to write about that era. I read to some degree about the political situation, but particularly how it was affecting Madrid culturally at the time, as in what kind of issues would protests likely be about, what was on people's minds at that time. So yeah, definitely did a bit of something of a deep dive on that, and it required some backing up and rewriting some aspects of the book at certain times. But yeah, it definitely helped flesh out the world a lot more completely.
Okay, one more question. There are a couple in the chat. A question on process. Do you have any writing rituals? What pushed you along, or was it just caffeine and a deadline?
Deadlines help. Yeah, they're good. Always deadlines. No, for me, one of my writing things is just to make sure I'm actually writing with someone or around someone. Like, I find that very much gets me in the focus place. But also, when I'm writing, I do often talk to myself, and people give me sideways looks, which can feel awkward, where you're just like... Because my books are very dialogue heavy, because I come from like a screenwriting background, so a lot of it comes down to me being like, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, and then people just look at me. So that's half the fun. That's where we go.
Yeah, it's weird how that works. When you're not by yourself, you can actually focus better. And you and I have actually done this. We've had writing sessions where we're sort of sitting across from each other on laptops, and it's weird how much focus you can actually have on what you're working on in that environment.
It's not competitive, but it is.
No, it's not.
It is.
Well,
but it's not.
was it?
It's not competitive.
Okay.
For Maddie.
Okay, I'm going to fact check that later. All right, but yeah, I don't know if I have any specific rituals or like I know if I'm stuck, I try to change the setting where I am writing. I find that helps me get unstuck very quickly. But yeah, I don't know. Reward myself with a glass of wine when I finish a chapter. I don't know. But yeah, no specific. I do know that when I can read a section back, and some part of my brain can just sort of forget that I wrote it, then it's done. So but that's probably the closest I've got to an answer to that.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions in the room, the last question from the people in the chat are, were the outfits coordinated for this evening?
I'm just always fabulous. It's a crime, really.
When you've tried to coordinate 10 or 11 different authors, each with a different story, trying to get unified covers, getting everyone to meet an exact deadline, getting everyone to follow roughly the same promotional schedule, we've coordinated enough. So this is what Bob Ross would call a happy little accident, and
That's what Mom calls it.
let's be honest, I've been called worse. So yeah, no coordination with the outfits, but they are fabulous.
Okay, well, thank you both for sharing your stories. This brings us to the end of this part of the evening. We're going to move on now to buying copies of the book. And as it turns out, we have the authors with us, so you can get them signed and chat with them. And yeah, come on up, buy a copy of the book. And thank you all for joining us today.
Just going to sneak in a little bit at the end, with your permission. All right. I've had a book in the drawer for about 10 years. It's been passed from publisher to publisher, and finally I decided I'm just going to publish it myself. So this is a book I wrote for my nephew 10 years ago called Tin Wings, and it's officially available as of today. But I brought that along if anyone would like a copy of that as well. So if you want to see what I thought my nephew would be 10 years ago, and yeah, steampunk fantasy, blah blah blah. Yeah, there it is. Also, I do like how I am in terms of the Haunted Hearts. The fact that they let me into the club at all is kind of a miracle, because it's 10 serious romantic books and then one about a guy with a talking seagull who causes chaos. So, thanks for letting me in the club.
Serious is such a relative word. I don't have any secret releases or upcoming releases to spruik, other than to say thank you all so much for coming out. If you're in the room, coming out on such a rainy night, thank you all for watching online. If you're watching there, be safe, keep reading, be kind. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Yeah.